Hey guys, it's Cynthia and I'm back with another look at some of these Queen Mary items that I found in this auction lot that we picked up recently. This has been amazing going through all of these envelopes. We've been finding such cool things. I'm finally into the earlier Queen's history during when she was a troop ship during the war, and then earlier on when she actually first started to set sail. And I'll tell you, after looking at all this stuff, I feel like there's a book in here, not a book about the Queen, but like a mystery novel set on the ship, or even just a story about somebody who, goes through, like I did, goes through boxes of old paperwork and finds some crazy detail that like no one's ever known. It's kind of nutty. So this is a book, pages from a magazine, I guess, that was about the decoration of the Queen before she set sail. I'm going to see if I can go in a little closer for you here. It's a huge, huge magazine or book. And what it does is it talks about the artisans that were hired to hand paint various parts of the ship. It's nuts. There's a engraved glass panels. Like, it was so gorgeous what they put together when this ship went out. So this was in the 1930s, late 30s. Beautiful. Look at this. Look at this crazy Madonna of the Atlantic, they call it, artwork that was in a cabin. It was just in a cabin. And this, so cute. A children's room for, again, a first-class cabin that had a separate section for the children. And artisans, again, hand-painting the man in the moon on the cabin. Oh, yeah, up there at the top. See him? So cool. So this is a look at this, just this look at what the Queen looked like back in the 30s when people were first taking her out is so interesting to me and so delightful. It just really makes me want to write in this period. So I might do that. The other thing, oh, this is just kind of a fun thing. We'll kind of alternate. This is not from that era. This is obviously much later. This was a Long Beach, one of these stationary pads that were all the rage that you could pick up when you were a tourist. And it has just little pictures at the bottom. There's the Queen that you could get, buy that while you were out shopping. I had another version. Actually, we'll just show you those while we're in here. This one too, this is from the Spruce Goose era, so that's the 70s, late 70s, I think. I should know this. So those were kind of fun. We found those in there. And then we also found this Spruce Goose bag and some stickers. So here's just a Long Beach decal. Queen Mary decal. I don't think I've shown you these yet. There's so much stuff. Forgive me if I show you things twice. And then a whole collection of Queen Mary 50th stickers, buttons. This is a commemorative coin. It's kind of a plastic coin though. And then Queen Mary Club. I guess you got these to take on the ship to show when you belong to the club. You know, you got discounts on things. So those were fun. Let's get back to the paperwork. So what totally knocked me out this week, like I said, was finding this documentation from the war years. This, if I can get it here, is a photocopy of the Queen Mary Daily. And if you can see the date on it, 1942. This is the newspaper that was printed on the ship every day for the soldiers. Queen Mary Jive Band swings it. British ready for attack on Rangoon. That was February 27th, 1942. There's a super article in here. Look, but then there's like a poem that somebody wrote. Isn't that sweet? Oh, this one. I love this. No room for rumor aboard the Queen Mary. Let me see if I can get you a little closer so you can take a better look at this little article. It's a really funny piece. It wasn't funny at the time, but it's funny now. about how the soldiers were gossiping like old women. And these rumors were causing problems aboard the ship. It was getting people upset. And this last line is great. Why be a stooge for Adolf? Get off his grapevine and squelch these rumors. So, super funny article in the newspaper for the soldiers to try to get them to stop talking about things they shouldn't be talking about. And then there's like fun stuff. Oh, here it is. This is a variety show program. And you can see here, if I can get in close enough, that Corporal Frank Coley was going to sing Sweet Georgia Brown. And QM, I don't know what that stands for, Queen Mary, oh, the Queen Mary Jive Band Ensemble, of course. There was another one I recognized here. Where was it? Casey at the Bat. Oh, Private Joe Fullman, is it? I think. Or Fudman was going to perform Casey at the Bat. So again, so fun, like a look into their life at the time. Excuse me, trying to get this camera back in a way that we can use it. That, you know, it's almost hard to believe that this is real, that there were real people, real soldiers on the ship that were reading these words that I'm looking at now. Crazy. So lots of news about the war. And then, as I said, different news about what was happening on the ship. Still no news from Java. Nazi industrial areas bombed. RAF scores hits. Rangoon evacuated by Allied forces. And they just go on and on and on all through 1942. Photocopies only, but wow, again, I don't know how common these are to find, but I think they're pretty rare and unusual. And speaking of rare and unusual, the collector, the Queen Mary person who put all this together, historian, wrote to the government and got a bunch of classified, well, unclassified, formerly classified documents, and had copies of those added here as well. Now, again, these are copies, photocopies of original memorandums that were, as you can see here at the bottom, when they were unclassified so they could be seen. So this is from the Commander Marshal, Chief of Staff. This is crazy. This is a memorandum to the Secretary of War talking about troop capacities on the Queen Mary. So once they had decided to use the Queen for troop carrying, they were trying to decide where they could send it. Now, they said they could put 8,000 men on the ship. Can you imagine? And they were talking about whether they should send her to Ireland or out to the Far East. Here's what's fascinating. It says, I do not know that there would be much difference. Sorry, let me try again. I do not know that there would be much difference so far as the saving of lives is concerned in case of a sudden sinking between a passenger complement of 4,000 and one of 8,000. The material difference would be in the psychological effect of the loss of the larger number of men. So they were actually debating whether it would be worse to lose 4,000 men or 8,000 men if this ship was sunk, which means they have to have thought that there was a good chance that it would be. And that there were a memo discussing that. It's both enlightening and so frightening. This, if you remember, I think in my other video, I talk about a letter from a guy in Rio de Janeiro who was part of the military complement that rounded up spies. Well, I have found someone in the Queen Mary, who used to be a tour guide, says that they actually used to tell that story on the cruise, on the tour. So apparently it is quite true. And then since then, I found a lot more information about it, including this, again, another formally secret and then unclassified document that was sent from, again, Marshall to the Chief of Staff of the Brazilian Army in Rio. And what this basically says is that the U.S. has found out that there have been several spies in Rio. Let me see if I can find the paragraph because it's really important. Yet we've received information that at least 6 shortwave messages sent from Brazil alone reporting the Queen Mary's passage, time of departure, passenger list, etc. And finally, the Italian radio broadcasted her sinking in order to draw from us further information. Had the boat been sunk with inevitable loss of thousands of our soldiers, the incident would have imperiled the historic friendship between our countries did any suspicion of the manner of the betrayal of the vessel to its enemies reach the public. So basically, show this letter to His Excellency General Dutra in order that I may be sure he understands my position so that we may meet the situation with mutual cooperation. He's basically accusing Brazil of being in cahoots with the Germans or the Italians and not siding with the Americans. And it's a pretty stern letter saying that if we found out that, you purposely allowed these spies to transmit information and it resulted in the sinking of the Queen Mary, it would be bad. It would be very bad for you. Again, I read this and I go, oh, God, there's a book in this. I watch Madam Secretary, I watch Designated Survivor, and I feel like this is right out of that. Like, the fact that this is not fiction, that this really happened, to me is, again, insane. I know I keep using the same word over and over. I also found in there, this is a copy of the notes on how the gunners would be deployed on the Queen Mary. Now, you again, remember the ship was designed to be a luxury passenger liner. Obviously didn't have guns. So all of that was added when it became a troop ship. And it talks here about how the gun drills would be, all of this. And I love this. Smoking is permitted during daylight hours. I love that they had to have a special paragraph about that it was okay to smoke. And it goes on and on about how many rounds would be kept, how the gun covers, this was really important. He complains that the gun covers that are used to protect the guns from weather cause a severe delay when they need to be used very quickly, and the time it takes to get the gun covers off was a problem. Another amazing piece of information from 1943. This one also, I haven't read this whole thing, but this is another government document that was sent that talks about the Italians claiming to have torpedoed the Queen Mary. So this first is a news story that ran. The official Italian news agency Stefani broadcast yesterday a wholly unconfirmed report that the 81,000-ton British liner Queen Mary has been torpedoed and heavily damaged in the South Atlantic while carrying 10,000 North American troops. Now, we know it was 9. They inflated that. Neither Army nor Navy headquarters at Washington had any information concerning the report and declined to comment. Think about, again, especially people who had traveled. A lot of celebrities had traveled on the Queen Mary. Fred Astaire, they mentioned Laurel and Hardy. And at this point, when this news broke, this is, not the internet days. It took time for this stuff to get around and to be verified. And this must have seemed like a truly possible, like a true news story. And people heard that the Queen Mary had been torpedoed. We had every reason to believe that it was true. And with 9,000 troops aboard, think about that's 9,000 mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, wives that thought that their loved one was in danger. It chokes me up. So this goes on. Like I said, look at the whole thing. So I think this whole thing goes on to talk about the spy incidents. Yeah, here's Brazil and Chile again. Boy, they were really a mess in this thing. And more discussion about the espionage and how this had to be stopped. Counter-espionage in the Americas. So this was a piece that was circulated to talk about stopping the spies that were hanging out in Latin America or South America. So I haven't read this whole thing yet, but so totally feel like there's a story in here. So we're going to finish up with this last thing that I found. This isn't quite as old. This is actually from the 1980s. But they're still pretty neat. These are copies of Ocean Bulletin. Let me go up a little bit higher here so you can see them better. So this is Ocean Bulletin. This is a fan newsletter, if you will, that was created by the Queen Mary Long Beach Chamber of Commerce. The Queen Ocean Bulletin. It was like a fan newsletter. and it just talks about various things that happened on the Queen, just news in general. There was one I did want to point out because I am a TV fan. See if I can find it. So these are from the 80s. I think they are the glossy version of another set that I have that's all paper. Oh, look at this. Oh, here it is. Pictures. Fred Astaire and Laurel and Hardy talking about the celebrities that used to ride on the Queen. Oh, here we go. Hollywood at the Queen. So this is a piece about the fact that the week that this was produced, Airwolf production team was using the Queen Mary as a backdrop for a story about terrorists on a ship. And there were SWAT trucks, helicopters, army jeeps, police cars, and hardworking crew. Cut, take 20, and all that stuff. So all the tourists who were at the Queen Mary that week got to see Airwolf filming there. So that's kind of fun. And one last version from August, September. Lovely photo on the front. And lots of information on the inside about both the history and the current things happening on the Queen. So that's what I got for this round. A lot of more stuff. Great information about the Queen during the war. If you're interested in any of these pieces, some of them will be up for sale in our eBay store, Boris Basement. If you search or just search Queen Mary on the eBay and you'll find it. Some of it was going to go into our personal collection, and some of it I'm going to read. And like I said, maybe I will turn it into a book. There is so much more. We've barely begun to dig out, but I suspect because I did hit the war years and the 30s, I think I might have found the best of what's in the boxes, but you never know. There might be more. If you've got a Queen Mary story to tell, I'd love to hear it. Leave it in the comments for me below.